So how did the many soldiers in a company or battalion spread out over hundreds of yards know what to do and when to do it? There were no walkie-talkies. There were no cell phones back then. Oftentimes, the officer voices could not be heard far enough by the many soldiers that were there. And communication in the field was critical in a successful operation of any military unit. So in the early 1800s, the United States military established standard bugle calls for the troops. During the Civil War, bugle calls were sounded every day in camp, on the march, and during battle for the purposes of communication. The bugle or signal horn, derived from the German Bugelhorn, had been present throughout military history. The earliest of historical records tell of trumpet blasts announcing the start of a great battle, inspiring large numbers of troops into action. During the Civil War, many boys 12 years and younger enlisted as field musicians because they were prohibited from carrying a weapon. You are probably familiar with a few bugle calls. Reveille, for example, or more commonly taps, are still used to this day. The Beck's band cornet section would like now to let you hear a few of the other many dozens of bugle calls. Attention. This brief call was used as a preliminary signal to alert troops that other calls would soon follow. When the infantry soldier was at rest in camp or on the march, this call would immediately cause him to take his place in the ranks of attention. The general. To any Civil War soldier within a large infantry encampment, this call was very important because when it sounded, it meant that a great change was about to occur. Immediately upon hearing this bugle call, soldiers were to strike tents, break camp, and be ready to march. The assembly. The assembly was the signal for men to fall in and form ranks. It was sounded for roll calls, but was also used to assemble troops for dress parades and inspections. To the color. This call was sounded to bring companies up to the color line and form battalions for inspections or dress parades. It was also sounded at ceremonies honoring the national colors. The recall. The recall was used in camp and in battle. It was sounded to summon troops back to the main battalion for further instructions or dismissal from drill. In battle, it was used to recall troops already deployed back to the main or reserve battalions. The retreat. Retreat was sounded late in the day, usually at sunset after the final dress parade, for the purpose of taking roll or reading orders to the troops assembled, after which soldiers were dismissed from all duties of the day. To extinguish lights. Until 1862, this call was the very last signal played on the bugle to end the day in the U.S. Army. It served as the final warning for the soldier to discontinue all activities and extinguish lights. After 1862, however, it was gradually replaced among federal camps with a more preferred lyrical version known as taps.